All right, let's jump on to simple step number 3, and that is, it's not a surprise, I think it's an actual nice progression, because we talked about connecting. We also said what is a great way to improve and enhance your, for 2017 successes. We recommend focusing on the resources and actually even role-playing for interview success. You know, it's interesting that coming off the topic here, let me jump over here, back up a little bit. Sorry about that. Let's see, there we go. All righty, go back over here, get to the next one. You know, we talked about this one being relatively self-explanatory, but you know, it cannot be overstated just how essential and just how dependent so many of these individual residents and physicians, along with who are employers and even the recruiters for guidance, they actually turn to these people and say, you know, I don't have, and it's something that we didn't get taught necessarily in residency programs as I was going through clinical training, we really don't understand and have access to all of the things that's going to be necessary to help me be prepared for, succeed in, even follow-up etiquettes associated with the first, second, on-location interview. So the question is, who do they turn to? If they're not getting it from residency programs, not something they necessarily have time to look up and go through it. So it's in our estimation that since in-house recruiters have such a big stake in the outcome of the candidate that they select and submit to the interview process, and it also will take up financial sources and resources and scarce time of everybody to go through it, we believe that recruiters, you guys who are joining us today, and the employers need to focus on these resources for these interview successes. I think you guys are the people that they can turn to. So Todd, you had some thoughts on this. I know this is a topic that you're real passionate about.
Yeah, you know, I think the interview for the, you know, employer, I mean, there's a lot you have invested. Obviously, you are, you know, this is, you're not, they don't interview generally with one person. They interview with a team of people, and they don't go there for an hour to meet somebody. I mean, they spend maybe a day, sometimes a day and a half, sometimes two. And so just the amount of time and effort and facilitation, it's time consuming and costly to bring somebody in. And so you want to make sure, obviously, they're prepared, and you know, can you provide a value and a service to your candidate to help them do so? And if you can imagine on the mindset of a candidate who is either coming again after a decade of training and they're coming into the market for the first time, or even somebody that's about to make a major change in their career, can you know, imagine them going on the car ride over or the plane ride over, and they start thinking, oh gosh, am I going to like it here? And, you know, am I going to make enough money? And will my family be happy? And all these questions. I mean, it's natural. We all do it. And so that's kind of the mindset they have. And if they go in 95% trying to get a job offer, because that 5% they have those questions just are swimming in their mind, that 5% can cost them the job, because what does the employer, the people that are interviewing, how do they pick up on that 5%? Well, they view it as that this doctor is uncertain or uninterested. So the importance of prepping and preparing them. So, you know, one of the things that you can share with them is the goal of the interview. Get them in the right mindset. Hey, the goal of the interview is to get a job offer, and you can do two things with it. You can either accept it or you can decline it. You can't decline something that hasn't been offered to you. And you also can't make a good decision without all of the facts. And you certainly can't get all the facts unless you're prepared. So there's resources that you can provide them that's going to be providing them sample questions that they can ask the employer. There's going to be questions that maybe the employer is going to be asking them. If you can get them to start thinking on this level prior to the interview, and they start thinking this through, obviously the interview is going to go better. And they're going to have a much deeper thinking level. I keep saying that, deeper thinking level. I mean, how could they have a deeper thinking level unless they go through this process and somebody's, you know, holding their hand and helping them? They're in a bubble for the last decade, and they have this, it's very tough for them. And so to kind of just jump out of that bubble and just to have that mindset that automatically that they need to have, it's not natural, and it doesn't happen often. And then I think it's important to explain what your role is. Hey, my role is to help you make a decision whether this is the right information, and I'm going to provide you resources every step of the way. So these are the type of conversations that you can have prior to the interview, and I think you can make a big impact on helping them prepare. And I don't know, Dan, if that's what you're looking for or not, but that's
Yeah, it is. But what's fascinating about how we're doing this is it seems to me that it can be beyond just interviewing. The recruiters, employers should be thinking about with the residents and physician candidates. We're focused on role playing for interviewing success. But why don't you also share some of the additional areas where residents and residents and physician candidates have? There are other concerns and questions just beyond interview success. What might some of those be?
I think it's the entire. It never stops. I mean, even before they get into the interview phase, they need maybe some help drilling down on what type of opportunity they're looking for, and then you got the interview, and then you got the post-interview. But if that doctor ends up becoming a placement, they need help with onboarding. They need help with relocation, and then once they start practicing, the next phase is the 401k. They need help with investing and when to start saving for college. So there's all of these things, and it's just constantly trying to feed the doctors. I mean, once you have them, then what can you do to retain those physicians? So I think that there's resources, and the mentality is to just it's evergreen. It never stops. You constantly educate. One of the things and one of the areas that I wanted to point out that especially with residents, they're focused on the starting salary. They're focused on the loan repayment, as they should. I mean, hey, they have debt, and this is their time. They're a free agent, and they're going into the market for the first time. So there's going to be some focus on compensation. And you guys, the in-house recruiters, the employers know that sure, you can do certain things, and if they come, that's great. But what happens a year or 2 years down the road once the guarantee and they transfer from the guarantee to really a productivity model? If they don't see enough patients, if they don't see and have a practice that can sustain the income, then what happens after 2 years? Then they're going to go out and look for another opportunity if they don't maintain the income that they're getting from their salary, because they'll feel devalued. And you see it. You see on people's, a lot of, about 25% of the doctors, they move every couple years. They go from one practice to they're chasing the guaranteed salary. So I think there's a really good opportunity. Some hospitals do this very, very well, and others don't. But having that conversation with them that, hey, this guarantee, this loan repayment's great, but what do you need to do in order to sustain this practice? And having somebody meet with them on whether it's a quarterly basis or monthly basis to make sure they're on that. So that being said, there's a lot of different things that you can do, and I just mentioned just a few of them.
Yeah. Well, I know all of these are significant areas that the residents are looking to help launch their careers that they struggle with, and I know they want to be best prepared. And the good in-house recruiters are going to be the ones that are actually helping that take place. They're investing in the relationship and the outcome that's good for both the residents and the employer, and want to make sure that the residents have access to the materials to help them, knock the interview out of the park. Also have a better comfort level on that compensation and negotiation. It's interesting. Todd, where can in-house recruiters and the physician employers, the participants that are here today, where can they find the content that they can use to help either direct their residents and physicians to, or even them access to help them prepare to support this type of the process?
Yeah, there's two that I know of, and there might be more, but obviously the most basic one is, you go into Google and you pull up, you type in your keyword searches, and you pull up your, and you start searching, And it's not, the pros are that they're unlimited results and information. There's some great resources out there. Of course, the cons are there's so much information that it's very time consuming to figure out what's relevant to your doctor, or whether it's to your doctor, whether it's a different profession, all that kind of stuff. So, it can, some in-house recruiters or even residents, they get a little frustrated because they can't find what they want and they go on to the next thing. The other part is we being Adventures in Medicine, built physiciancareerplanning.com. And what we offer in this resource is you can search among 150 different career and life planning resources, guides, exercises, there's calculators, there's a lot of different information. And this is content from thought leaders in the physician recruitment space, wealth managers, in-house recruiters, just many thought leaders. And it's customized to support the resident and the physician job search timeline, and it's complementary. So this is something that you guys can use. So whether you use this resource, you use Google, or you use another one that you find, I think you got to go out and secure a resource or a platform to go out and be able to understand what these resources are, and then how do you use them throughout your process.
I like that you brought up the resources that we've devoted years in developing and putting a lot of time into. I'm pulling it up right now. I thought would be helpful is I'm going to pull this over. Can you tell me if you see that, Todd? Can you see that I've pulled over the physician career planning? So just reinforcing what Todd said, here's physician career planning for those who are eager to go look at it. And, take the time to go through. You'll see that we've got things organized by research topic. So interviewing, immigration, CV cover letters, contract and negotiation, exercises and resources that are there, as Todd mentioned, to help support, guide the job search timeline, contributed by subject matter and thought leader experts. And, this is a resource that you can guide and direct your physicians and resident candidates to. Even more impressively, as we've talked about, I think it's essential that you guys are the ones that go and access this, again, sitting side by side, rotating and role-playing and guiding them through that. So, again, that physician career planning, we'll make reference to it a little bit later down the road in our webinar today, but that's available for you, and I think that would be a dynamite resource to help support the stages that we've talked about thus far. So with that in mind, let's move on here. Yep, that's there. Oh my goodness, already. My goodness, here we are. We're already at the halfway point. Let me take a look and make sure that we've, let's recap here. So 6 simple steps. We talked about simple step number 1 is commit to the quarterly residency presentations, at least at a minimum. So I think 61% of you said that's what you want to accomplish. If you add in another 20+%, nearly 80 some odd percent want to at least do quarterly, if not 1 to 2 of them for the year. Step number 2 is use collaborative exercises to stand out of the career fair. And so we showed reference to resources that can help you accomplish that, including the timeline and the worksheets. And then we talked about focusing on the resources and role-playing for interview success. So while we take a break at halftime just for a second, get a sip of water, how are we doing so far? And hopefully everybody's getting some value out of this. So if you guys would, I know some of you have been, almost all of you have been pretty active in contributing comments and chats. It looks like we've still got just about everybody on. So if you would, type in the chat group 5 if we're doing an outstanding and beyond expectations. Type in 4 if we're doing great and very valuable information. 3 if it's solid and you're finding that stuff you can use. 2 if it's just okay and you're just getting only a few ideas. And then 1 is a total waste of time, and hopefully that's not what we'll find here today. But Also, you know, it looks like we still have some questions that are coming in. So while I will let people type in a 5, a 4, a 3, 2, and a 1, let's take a look at questions coming in. A couple of people asked, yes, yes, you know what? Yes, we will be. We have, and as we mentioned earlier, we're recording this, and so I know many of you will want to share this internally. And so those who have joined late, that we shared in the beginning, that we will be recording this, and we'll send out an email to everybody once we process and we put it on a landing page or somewhere on our site that you can get access to. We'll send you the details of where you can go to get that. You know what, I think would also be a good idea, and see if we can do it, because this is a very in-depth and long webinar. We'll create it so that we can actually hopefully segment the sections so that you can go right to the different steps that you may want to revisit and take a look at again. Looks like another question that's being asked a couple of times is people are wanting to get access to or talk about how they can access PowerPoint presentation that we showed and some of the other content. So rather than address that one at a time, let's hold off on that individual responding. At the end, we'll provide contact details and emails of where you can request some more of this information. So it looks like we've got mostly 5s, 4s, a couple 3s, solid stuff that we can use. So nobody else below that. That's good. So I'm glad we're adding some value here. All right. Well, I guess let's continue on then. So it looks like we're doing what we said to have started off to do, and let's move on.